Hi everyone, I just wanted to come on. I have got a really quick literacy story writing sequence that you can use with your children at home. This is only one of many ways that you can start a story writing sequence with your children. If you are in my class at school, oh, he's gone. If you are in my class at school, this has been assigned to you on our online learning platform, but I wanted to create this video in case you guys want to watch it to find out how this sequence has been taught in school. And of course it is open to all children, not just children from my class and the other Year 5 class at Peckover, to complete this in their own way. Now, I always really like to start a story writing sequence with a story, which makes total sense. This particular story, we've got a cat out there who's playing. You'll find out why in a second. This particular story was actually written by my dad. My dad is a retired NHS worker, and in his retirement, they're causing a bit of trouble out there, I think. We might come and say hello in a second. Do you want to come and say hello? Look, this is Jeffrey. In his retirement, he has taken up writing stories for children. So the story that I'm going to read you today is called My Favourite Place, and it is about a cat. So it goes like this. So many places to choose from, and you force me to select one. It's a tough job, but here goes. I'm walking into the sitting room and looking to my left. There is a space between the central heating radiator and the wood burner. I call it my feline recuperation zone. Recuperation means recovery, so if you were to get poorly, you would spend some time recovering or recuperating, getting better. I'm guessing my humans, I actually own two, had a word with the architect on my behalf at the design stage. He needs a place to recover after washing, they might have said. Don't laugh, it is quite strenuous, I'll have you know. You try licking furiously with one leg stretched above your head. Breakfasts appear, as if by magic, in a saucer by the back door. I can't really be bothered to hunt for food. Still, I like to keep my humans on their toes by changing cat food brand preference from time to time. After breakfast, it's back to the FRZ for a snooze until lunchtime. I'm glad my people didn't stint on carpet quality. Quite frankly, 100% wool on premium underlay is the only game in town. Budget carpets just don't feel right. They don't scrag properly. I own a particularly fine Axminster in oatmeal. Thanks for asking. I can't abide Henry. Henry visits once a fortnight. Henry is a vacuum cleaner. One look at those demented eyes tells you all you need to know. It's time to leave my favourite spot and retreat to the windowsill. My cats do that when I hoover my house. They're terrified of the noise. Sadly, my lovingly crafted mattress cover of excess hair is swallowed up by the beast. I have to start all over again. Grandchildren are a mixed blessing. The good news is that they are affectionate, albeit in a muscular way. That's an interesting word, muscular. It means quite strong. So what the character is saying here is that he likes the grandchildren because they're affectionate, they're loving, but they are quite strong and they might pick them up and maybe squeeze a bit too hard. The bad news, it goes on, the bad news about the grandchildren is their love of Lego. Imagine the scene. Sunday lunch is over. 101 Dalmatians, I hate that film. is on again. The children are engrossed, so time for a nap. Engrossed is a really interesting word. It's very similar to fixated, so it means that the children are really into the film. They can't stop watching it. But what's this? A Lego brick slap bang in the middle of my spot. I adopt a sad victim face, but nobody pays attention. There isn't an RSPCA officer to be seen. I make my displeasure known by flouncing off in a huff. Eventually, the children leave and peace is restored. Forgive and forget, I say. Last summer was a nightmare. The interior decorators were in. For 2 days, my little sanctuary was invaded by dust sheets and ladders, and strangers wandering around with pots and rollers in their hands. How am I meant to relax in all of this? I resolved that if they spilt emulsion, cat. The cat's getting very excited. Cat, come on. This is Winston. Winston is the cat that this story was written about. So I'll carry on. Last summer was a nightmare. The interior decorators were in. For 2 days, my little sanctuary was invaded by dust sheets and ladders. Strangers wandered around with pots and rollers in their hands. How am I meant to relax in all of this? I resolved that if they spilt emulsion on my bit of carpet, the gloves would be off. Don't get mad, get even. Yes, it would be furball time. Anyway, I hope that you have enjoyed a peek into my celebrity lifestyle. Sharing with my many admirers matters a lot to me. Nevertheless, interviews like this are quite draining, so I may need to take my leave now to rest my eyes. If you want me, you know where I'll be. The end. So the reason that I chose to read you this story was that I just thought it was really interesting to write a story from the point of view of a cat. So you'll notice that the whole story was written in the first person. So the person who wrote the story, my dad, really put himself in the position of the cat. So it's I, me, my. And it's quite interesting that the cat really seems to think that he owns the place. He's quite self-absorbed. He thinks that they're his humans, so he doesn't think that the humans own him. He thinks that he owns the humans, which is quite an interesting thing. I sometimes think that Winston feels that way. So, oh, here we go again. Goodbye. So what we have started to do in school, and children have taken this home with them, is that we brainstormed a few ideas around this story. And of course, you're welcome to go back to the beginning of the story and listen again, and talk about the things that you notice. So talk about those things with the people around you. You might have a brother or a sister or an adult at home with you. Talk about what the cat's personality might be like. There are lots of clues in the text. So, for example, he says that you are taking a peek into his celebrity lifestyle, and that sort of tells me that the cat thinks quite highly of himself. He's quite self-absorbed. That's a really interesting phrase. I might use that in my story writing. He's quite self-absorbed. He thinks that the world revolves around him. So, yeah, if you have listen to the story again, if you go back to the beginning of this video, listen to the story again and talk with the people around you, and you can take a few notes as well about what kind of personality this cat has, and how do you know that the cat has this kind of personality? What can you learn about the cat from the story? Take a few little notes, and what we're going to be doing is writing another story in the series. So what I would like you to do now in a sec is pause the video, and I would like you, when you pause the video, to talk to the people around you about what other stories might this cat be involved in. So this is kind of a bit of an overview of the cat's life, and I want you to think about what kind of stories might happen in this cat's life, and we are together going to write the next story in the series. So if you pause the video now, when you restart, I will give you some extra ideas to add to your own, and then you can choose your favourite story idea to write when you write your own. Okay, so I'll see you in a sec. Right, welcome back, guys. I have got a list here of some of the ideas that we came up with as a class about what the next story in this series might be. So I'm going to try and show you. I don't know if it will work. So I've got 5 ideas here. You don't have to use these ideas. Be creative, come up with your own, yeah, these are just a bit of a starting point, okay? So we talked about the fact that Winston, the cat in this story, might go to the vets. So that's a really interesting one to discuss. How would a cat with this sort of personality react to going to the vets? What thoughts might he have? What things might he say? How might he describe the vet's surgery? That's a really interesting one. We've said that he's, you know, quite self-absorbed and quite a selfish cat. He sees himself as a kind of a celebrity. So it would be interesting to see how he would react when he's in a different situation in the vets. Okay, we also talked about Winston and Henry the Hoover, who comes out every so often. It says in the story a fortnight. A fortnight means every 2 weeks. So he might come out every week, he might come out every 10 days, he might come out more often than that. But it would be really interesting to hear Winston's thoughts, his internal, you know, those thoughts that you hear in your head. We call that an internal monologue. So what he's thinking to himself when the Hoover comes out. I think he'd be quite disgusted. I think he'd be scared of the noise, and I think he'd be quite disgusted. And maybe he might be embarrassed, and because he thinks he's quite tough and quite important. So it would be interesting to see in your story how he reacts to the Hoover coming out. My third idea was that Winston gets in some sort of situation where he needs a bath. So you are going to have to be creative and think about what situation might a cat, why might he need a bath? I suspect from what I know about the cat in this story that he maybe wouldn't react very happily to having a bath. So that's quite an interesting one. Also, this is quite a self-important cat. So he, as I said, he thinks very highly of himself. So what might happen if Winston met a dog? So he thinks he's kind of quite tough and quite big. If he met a dog, how would he react? Okay, that's quite an interesting one. And in the story, Winston talks about the grandchildren being a mixed blessing. That means that sometimes he quite likes them, they're quite friendly, but they're a bit rough with him. They're a bit tough when they give him cuddles. So perhaps an animal, maybe a kitten, a baby cat, or a human baby might come into the household, and it would be really interesting to see how the cat in this story reacts to a new member of the family coming in. So what I'd like you to do now, the video is over, I'm going to do part 2 next. I want you to stop the video here, and I would like you to come up with your own ideas and choose your favourites. So have a chat to your brothers and sisters, have a chat to any adults who are at home about what the next story might be. And it would be really interesting if you have a brother or sister or cousin or whoever living with you. It would be really interesting if you both wrote slightly different stories about this cat's life, and then you can compare them. So the video ends here. In the next video, part 2, I'm going to be talking you through, this is what I like to call a story path. So it's a really simple tool for you to plan your story without masses and masses of writing, but it is a really good idea to get that idea of what's going to happen in your story written and drawn out, so that when you go to actually writing your story, you're in a really good position because you've got lots of preparation done. So enjoy that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.